Hello, everyone. Welcome to Blue Double Beat. I'm your host, Ranjan Jindal, here joined by my co-host, Caleb Dudley. Caleb, how you doing, man?
I'm good. Good to be back. Want to know?
Yeah, football season is officially underway. We have two very special guests here with us today. El Chavis, who is this is the first time on our podcast, one of our football beats and our sports managing editor. El, thank you so much for joining us.
Super excited to be here.
And next, we have Alex Min, who is one of our assistant Blue Zone editors, another one of our football beats. Alex, thanks for joining us again.
Thank you for having me.
So El and Alex covered Duke's win against Elon. We're going to cover that today. We're also going to preview the Illinois game with two writers from the Daily Illini, and then we'll talk a little bit about the national discourse around college football, and then we'll recap kind of the weekend in Duke fall sports, if that sounds good. But first, this podcast is brought to you by Duke Stores. Support your favorite Duke team. Duke Stores is home to the only collection of merchandise in the world that comes to you straight from Duke University. Go to shop.duke.edu for all of your Duke merch. All right, so let's start with that Elon game. Little Thursday night home opener, 45-17, Duke won. First of all, how was the coverage experience, guys? First football game?
Yeah, it was really good. Super exciting to see the student section packed. Everyone out there to support Duke football, so that was very, very exciting for my first coverage experience.
The student section might have been the only thing that was packed. Alex, what about you? I guess you did the spring game. But...
I did do the spring game, but that was right behind the bench and
Yeah.
this up in the press box. That was a really awesome experience. Yeah.
Good. All right, well, let's start with some takeaways, because obviously the final score was a lot different than the game was for the majority of it. It was a little 10-10 halftime game, but I'll start with you. What were just some of your big picture takeaways from Duke's Week 1 win?
Yeah, I think one of my big picture takeaways is that Duke's defense is still Duke's defense. Even when the offense was kind of struggling in the first half, Elon's first three drives, they all ended in, sacks or big tackle for losses. So I think that really showcased that Duke's defense is still strong and ready to make opponents pay.
Yeah, Alex, what about you?
I think it showed me that no matter how much things change, they stay the same. Particularly when it comes to Duke being a second half team or coming out of the break strong. And maybe I know Coach Diaz attributed that to like nervousness at the start.
Yeah.
He had players coming up to him talking about, they're feeling anxious, and maybe that's just a first game of the season sort of thing. But it felt very reminiscent of a lot of things we saw last season as well. So just to see them overcome that in the second half, that was, I think, really promising as well.
Yeah, definitely seeing Diaz mentioned that at the end, and last year there was this big emphasis on being a fourth quarter team, putting opponents in the sewer. I don't know if you'd say that about Elon, but that felt that way. And that big 21-7 fourth quarter lead fourth quarter advantage really helped Duke. Caleb, from the stands, what were your takeaways from the stands?
I thought, I think this always happens most times in FCS matchups, but I thought the depth for Duke obviously got to play a lot. I thought they played especially well on offense. All four of the running backs, the stable, as they call it, I thought they all looked really good. New guys and Nate Shepard and Anderson Castle both had some big moments. Same thing at receiver, like Jaden Moore back from injury in the spring game 2 years ago. I thought he looked really good. Andrew Anthony looked good. Lana King new incomer at tight end looked good. So I thought, Duke seems to have a lot of guys that are confident in putting out there on the field, and I thought they all looked pretty good against Elon.
For sure. And I think the kind of elephant in the room, or the biggest performer there, was Darian Mensah, transfer quarterback coming in from Tulane, making his first start. A lot of energy around him, a lot of money around him. But, it was interesting. I was telling Caleb and Dom, who we were also sitting with, like, for a good portion of the game, I was like, I don't think I've seen, Darian make a bad throw yet. A few early were drops. You had Cooper Barkay drop one, and then Peyton Jones dropped a touchdown. A couple deep balls, and then he threw a couple of balls that, weren't great, but he was 27 for 34 for 389 yards, 3 touchdowns. I thought he looked fantastic. You could see early the first play of the game was him rolling out and running. One thing that, he adds to this Duke offense a lot different from what you had previously. So I thought Mensah was fantastic.
Yeah, I think anytime you can finish a game with 14 straight completions, you're doing something right.
Yeah, for sure. Let's go around and maybe say a player that we thought did well, a player shout out. Caleb kind of mentioned mine, but Jaden Moore, obviously the younger brother of Jordan Moore. Jordan Moore, who has led this wide receiver room for the past, 3-4 years. Jaden steps in, and I think a big question mark I had about this team was the depth at wide receiver. But Jaden seems to be a guy that, can step in and play well. He had a few little, he's quick. He's in the slot. He had a few little nice jukes. A couple good receptions. Obviously, Caleb mentioned his injury last spring, and so it's good to see him playing well. And I think he can provide another option for Mensah to kind of expand that receiver room a little bit.
Yeah,
Caleb?
I can go next. I'll go with another Caleb, Caleb Weaver. I thought it's his first game coming from Sam Houston State. I thought he was really steady on the back end. Obviously Terry Moore is out with injury, so he's holding down that safety area. But really the reason I put him was on the Quayshawn Brown punt return touchdown. Caleb Weaver came down the field, blocked 3 guys at one time
Wow.
without using his hands. And so that kind of just the hustle play, it stood out to me during the game. But yeah, I thought he did really well, and secondary did. I thought decent as a whole, but yeah, he's my shout out for the game.
Nice. Alex?
Yeah, I'm gonna shout out Andrell Anthony. I think to see him back on the field was a great thing, especially after kind of the past 2 years he's had at Oklahoma and the injuries he's dealt with. I mean, he had 1 catch all of last year, and then to get 3 for 51 yards and a touchdown, that's really great to see. I think Darian Mensah gave him a shout out in the post game as well. And I think it really highlights the depth that this receiver room has, even with the departures of Jordan Moore and Eli Pankel. It gets me really excited about what they're going to look like this year.
Yeah, definitely. He was really excited after that touchdown. The celebration was like relief after 2 years of injury. Yeah. Elle, what about you?
I'm going to shout out Cooper Barquet. I thought that he played really well, especially considering he wasn't here in the spring, and kind of mentioned that having to really build that chemistry with Darian super fast. And I thought they looked amazing. And if I'm not mistaken, I think he had the most receiving yards out of Duke receivers, even though he didn't play the last couple minutes of the fourth quarter. So I thought that was really impressive and makes me really, really excited for Duke's receiving core as a whole going forward.
And the press conference, it seemed like he just got dinged up in the back a little bit.
Yeah, he said he was fine after that. So good news for us.
Yeah, sounds good. It seemed like, I know we shouted out the receiver core, but it was a really balanced effort. Cooper Barquet, 5 receptions, 117 yards. Quayshawn Brown led the team in receptions with 6, 93 yards. Samir Hagan's also with 5 receptions. So really balanced. I'll also give a couple honorable mentions, I guess. I thought you mentioned Nate Shepard, but him and Anderson Castle both looked fantastic at times, backing up Jaquez Moore. Castle had that one long run on 3rd down, and Nate Shepard's quick, man. He's got some moves. And then on the defense, I got to shout out Chandler Rivers. Who is not going to get a lot of crazy stats because nobody's throwing the ball at him because he's so well. Elon didn't really throw the ball much anyway, but he made a couple blitzes. He got some tackles for loss. He blew up some screens, which was nice. And I just thought his presence is going to really change, this defense, like I mentioned. So
yeah, I can go. I think I have 2 as well. Honorable mentions. Okay. I'll start with Josiah Green, coming in from Dartmouth. The biggest thing to me just watching him from the stands is he's an absolute space eater. That dude he's huge.
Space eater, that's
I thought they put Jamion Franklin back on the field and put him in pads. He looks just like Jamion Franklin. Huge D tackle. First drive, I think he had a sack and a tackle for loss. So he's going to be dynamic there next to Aaron Hall. The other one's also defense. I'll stick in the secondary with Landon Callahan. Didn't really know who was going to be that third corner coming into the season behind Chandler and Kamari Robinson, but Callahan played quite a bit, especially on 3rd downs. They moved Chandler into nickel and let Callahan play out wide. I thought, he did a pretty good job there. Obviously, you mentioned Elon didn't throw it too much, but, you still have to be out there and you still have to cover and tackle. So I thought he did well. I'm looking forward to see what he does, going forward.
Yeah, that's good. Anything that we didn't mention about the Elon game that you guys would like to say? It's okay. It's not.
I don't think so. I think you guys covered everything.
Yeah. As we're gonna preview the Illinois game after this break, but anything that you guys think is important for Duke to continue or change as gonna face a opponent that's a lot higher in quality next week.
I think definitely just keeping the momentum up. We saw that really good momentum in the 3rd and 4th quarter, and like we've established, Duke is a 4th quarter team, but with an opponent like Illinois, you kind of want to be a whole game team so you don't get in too big of a hole. So I think just really keeping that momentum up and shook all the nerves out last week and kind of go into the game with a little bit more confidence because, like we said, their performance, warrants a little bit of confidence. So I think that they should play with it.
Yeah,
it should be their coach, their motivator.
I can give a motivational speech.
I would just like them to establish an offensive rhythm early. Really have a nice balance between passing and rushing attack. I think at the end of the game against Elon, where they went really run heavy, I think I really liked what I saw from all the backs. They have different dynamics, and just kind of sprinkling that in where you need it on those opening drives to get up early. I think that'd be great.
Yeah. Definitely, and I also think it'll be important to be a little bit smarter defensively. Sometimes it's good to go all out in pressure, but sometimes, if against an experienced quarterback, experienced offensive line, it can bite you in the back. And you saw some runs for Elon that, they went down the field because of that. But yeah, I think it'll be an exciting game. Hopefully, a little bit more, a lot more people in Wallace Way Stadium for that game. But thank you guys for coming on. This was great, and we're excited to have you on the football B team this year.
Of course, thank you guys for having us.
All right, we'll be right back with 2 writers from the Daily Illini. We're super excited for that. All right, everyone. Welcome back to Blue Devil Beat. Like we mentioned, we have 2 very special guests today. We have Brendan Gallion, who's the sports editor for Illinois Student Paper, and we also have Ben Somerville, a senior sports reporter over there. So thank you guys so much for joining us today.
Thanks for having us.
Of course. Just to start, kind of the biggest storylines for this team. Obviously, a big turnaround from 2020-23 to 2024 last year, eclipsing the 10-win mark. What do you think catalyzed that turnaround? What were some of the biggest changes for Illinois that really led to that switch and that record flip last year?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll take this one first. I mean, so Luke Altmaier transferred over before the 2023 season, and it seems like it took him about a year to settle in. Last year, he really got into his own, and he really kind of set the pace. It almost looked like he was a different guy. Like there were splashes his first season here, but then last year, like he kind of just entered a whole new level.
What about you, Ben?
Yeah, I mean, building off that, it's Luke Altmaier all the way. I mean, like Brennan said, looked like a totally different guy. I mean, we all know football quarterback is probably the most important position, and he played some great football last year. I think a big thing was definitely turnovers. You watched his games. I mean, he was very safe with the football. He made some big time plays, but they didn't, they weren't irresponsible, I guess is the word. And I think that was something that was happening his first year around here. He was kind of trying to make those plays, but it maybe wasn't going the right way. And I think whatever he did, he did the right thing because he really, really locked in last year.
Yeah, going off of that, both of you mentioned Altmaier there as the catalyst. Maybe just break down his game. What are some of his strengths as a passer, as a runner, and then what are some of those improvements you guys saw from 2023 to 2024?
Yeah, like Ben said, like he got much more conservative. He's more careful, but he didn't sacrifice in terms of production. Like they were still putting up big points last season thanks to his arm. I mean, he's not like a notable rusher, but he can run a little bit. Like he's not useless with the legs. But yeah, passing's where it's at with him. And this season, it's kind of a crowded wide receiver room. They're trying out some new guys. There's kind of some questions about who it's going to be still going into week 2. I mean, there was a couple of guys that showed flashes in week 1, but so they're still trying to figure out who like the main guys are going to be over there. But certainly he's an arm first guy.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I think something that makes him a little special and somebody to watch out for is his legs. You might not think he could run, but he gets out of that pocket and he can just take off. And we saw it last year, especially, and not so much Friday night, I think. But he has that ability to get out of the pocket, and I think that absolutely expands his game. And maybe that's what he worked on from 23 to 24, and maybe that's what opened things up. But he has an arm as well, and saw it Friday night. Big pass down Hank Beatty, almost touchdown, but he's got the short plays, he's got the long plays, and everything in between.
Yeah, it really seemed like he can be dynamic as a runner. They sometimes run some draws for him, it seems like, too, quarterback draws, and he's able to be elusive out of the pocket as well. So definitely a dangerous dual threat guy there. I want to talk about the rest of the offense a little bit. Seems like a lot of continuity on that offensive line. You're bringing back, a bunch of starters there, and a couple running backs as well, with Aiden Laurie and Caden Fagan. What can we expect from the other dimension of the offense, the running game, especially with that continuity on the front and a couple guys coming back in that room?
Oh yeah, that's right. I mean, I think they're bringing back 16 starters from last season, which is I think tied for most in the Big Ten. So it is, it's a veteran team, relatively speaking. Aiden Lafferty had a great game against Western Illinois. He had touchdown or 2, I believe, and 100 yards on the ground. So I'd certainly look for him to kind of expand on that in week 2. But yeah.
Yeah, and I think they have a great group of running backs. They used all 3. It's Aiden Lawford, Caden Fagan, and Khalil Valentine, and I think they're all well over 4 yards per carry on Friday. And I think it all ties into, like you said, offensive line. All starters came back, and that's huge consistency for not only the pass game but the run game. Making sure that I mean, everyone knows the scheme, everyone knows the plays, so that's it's a big thing for an offense to maintain players like that who know what they're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've talked a lot about offense now. Flip over to defense. Kind of who are some key names to look out for on that side of the ball, and then what style of play can Duke expect to face come this Saturday?
Yeah, well, I think that the big guys, Gabe Jacas, who just had a fantastic game. I mean, you were kind of expecting him to facing an FCS team in Western Illinois, but he had 2 sacks in the first half, which I mean, it's incredible. And is like right now projected to go somewhere in the mid-20s in the draft if he can, keep that up all season. But he's not letting the pressure get to him. He's playing his game. But yeah, he had the sacks, he had a forced fumble, and yeah, he just looked incredible in the first half Friday night.
Yeah. I'd say the secondary is also there's Xavier Scott, Miles Scott, two guys who are returning. Had a really good season last year. Um, they have the ability to create turnovers, like Brendan said. Atkins had a forced fumble. They had plenty of interceptions last year. I think it's a pretty tough defense. Um, yeah, so there's some new guys. I know Caleb Patterson, defensive back. He had a bit of a rough game. Definitely some growing pains, but they have the skill and the ability to really pressure defense and create some turnovers, make them uncomfortable.
Yeah, yeah, you're definitely going to get that from a Brett Bielema coach team, solid defensively, and it seems like that's been a big key to their improvement over the past few years is on that side of the ball. What's maybe a player on either side of the ball, particularly that could be an X factor for this game? Maybe one that people aren't talking about as much that you think could shine for Illinois against Duke Saturday.
Well, yeah, he certainly shined in week one. Hank Beatty, who was doing some punt and kick returns week one. Now he had primarily been just a regular wide receiver. But yeah, he really, I mean, set the single game, I think, punt return yards record, broke a Red Grange record, which is just, I mean, the legendary here at Illinois. Yeah, he had, I think, the first punt return touchdown in 12 seasons, I believe, Friday night. So yeah, it's just incredible, and he will certainly look to build on that going into week two.
Yeah.
I'm going to stick on the offensive side, but different receiver. I'm going to go Hudson Clement.
Mhm.
His transfer coming in. He's a good receiver. There's a couple plays where him and Altmaier couldn't connect. I think it was first, second quarter, pretty early in the game. He had him wide open in the end zone, missed him. And that's expected for a transfer. He's coming in. It's a new offense, but I think um, he's definitely a guy to look out for. And I think he could definitely make a bit of a surprise impact week two, maybe, extra week of practice. He's getting comfortable, had a first game experience, and now come in and he's all right. I know what to do. I know how to do it. Let's get the ball rolling here.
Yeah.
Yeah. Heading into Saturday, obviously a big time game, noon on ESPN, close line. What are some keys you guys think Illinois needs to hit to be able to win this game on Saturday?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's going to be tough, but I mean, Darian Mensah in week one looked incredible. I think they're going to have to, if they can, find a way to slow him down somehow. We'll see. Like Ben mentioned, Caleb Patterson did get kind of, not the best performance against FCS Western Illinois in week one. So it'll be interesting to see how he plays and, how everyone plays really against a quarterback of Mensah's caliber, because it's really a huge step up.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think too, like obviously defense is going to be big. Mensa was great, but I think offense is going to be a big one. I mean, Duke struggled a little bit. Defense was a little iffy that first part of the game. I
Oh, yeah.
think if if Luke Altmaier and the offense can get out there and just attack quick, fast, move the ball, pass, run, and just start it early, I think they definitely have a good chance to just get ahead early and then let the defense try and do what they do, but making sure they stay ahead the Duke offense. I think that'd be a big part in the win.
Yeah, for sure. Stuff down the middle was pretty open for the defense, at least in the first half. What can we expect from this Illinois crowd? Is it a good traveling road crowd that you guys have seen in years past?
Well, this is both our years on the football beat, and they actually haven't had us travel in the past. We kind of had to work our way to get this one. I know that there's a couple media people going. I want to say like 10 or 15. The crowd does travel. I mean, they go to we're playing like Indiana, Purdue there at those games. I'm not sure how well they're going to be going all the way to Duke, but I guess we'll see.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, I hate to put you guys on the spot, but any score predictions possibly for Saturday? Brandon, I'll start with you.
Yeah, we did a preseason prediction, and I had this as an Illinois loss actually. So maybe a little change of opinion after seeing Duke week 1, but I think right now I'm gonna go. I still think it's gonna be a close game. I think it'll be a little higher scoring. So let's say maybe 30-24 Illinois.
All right, Ben.
Yeah, I agree with a little bit higher scoring. Two good offenses. I'll say 31-27.
Illinois.
Illinois, yes.
All
Okay.
right. Well, look forward to that. That'll be a good one. Well, tell us what you guys have got going on the Daily Illini. How can people find your stuff? We had another Daily Illini writer on, Ben Fader, last semester. He did a fantastic job, and I love your guys' stuff. So definitely, so shout out what you guys have. How can readers find your stuff?
Yeah, well, we should be getting stuff on socials soon. They've been kind of slacking lately, not to, talk bad about them, but we need to get on it to get our stuff on social media. But yeah, we're on Instagram, we're on Twitter, we're even on Facebook if you prefer to find us that way. But you can just Google us, the Daily Illini, and we'll come up right at the top.
Okay. Awesome. Well, thank you, Brennan, Ben. This has been awesome. Thank you guys so much for joining us for a few minutes. Love the insight, and hopefully it's a good game Saturday. Hope you enjoy Durham. So thank you guys so much for coming on.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
All right, we'll be right back. So Brendan and Ben for that preview. That was very comprehensive and great analysis from the Daily Illini. Definitely check out all of their stuff as well. They did great work. So what about our takes? What is your take for this Illinois game? Obviously a big one with the ranked matchup. Coming to town, ACC Network, a lot of excitement around the game. What do you think Duke has to do to win? And do you have a score prediction?
Yeah, I'm super excited. I think for Duke, the biggest thing that stood out to me against Elon was just the run defense in the first half, especially, was not tight. Brendan and Ben mentioned Altmaier has some legs, and they have plenty of running backs. So I think Duke's going to really need to tighten up on that front, especially against a physical team like Illinois. But yeah, I think it's going to be a close game, like they said. I had Duke losing to Illinois. I think I'll keep that after seeing Thursday and Friday for Duke and Illinois respectively. So I think I'll go something close, probably like 28-21 Illinois. So yeah, close loss for Duke in week 2.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think for Duke to win, two things have to happen. One is, I think on the defensive end, Duke has to win the turnover battle, steal a couple from Illinois, especially as they have so much continuity. They have an experienced quarterback. They have all the talent on offense that I think they're going to have some success moving the ball down the field. Obviously, the response from the Elon game, I think Pat and Diaz are going to lean into this defense and challenge them, and I think they can accept the challenge. But a big part of this defense is forcing turnovers, so they're going to have to do that to win. And then on the offensive end, I think you have to establish a consistent running game. Illinois has talented pieces in the back end, and so if you can run for, I think, maybe 100+ yards combined with the running backs, that'll really open things up for Mensa and can create a two-dimensional offense. But I still think, as of right now, Illinois is the just better and more experienced team by a little bit. It's going to be a lot closer than it would be probably if it was in Illinois, because it's in Wallace Wade. But I would say something like 27-24, 28-24, something in that range. Yeah. But yeah, it should be a fun one regardless.
Yeah.
All right. So why don't you give us the rundown from the other fall sports that have been happening so far on campus?
Yep. Okay, I'll start with the soccer since we had Mackenzie and Sophie on last week. Men's soccer moved to 2-0, a 1-0 win versus UC San Diego. So they're 2-0 now. They play, as we're recording this, they play tonight against Furman. Women's soccer had a huge win on Thursday at the same time as the Duke Elon game. 2-0 victory over number 8 Arkansas on the road. Super impressive there for Kieran Hall in his first year. Goals from Mia Benestrella and Devin Lynch, and then Caroline Dicer, 90 minutes in goal, clean sheet. So they're really looking good. Field hockey, close loss to number 17 Liberty this week. 4-3, I believe, was the score. And then this week on Friday, huge game, number 1 Northwestern. Huge hockey game coming up. Volleyball got started this week as well. Beat Bryant 3-1 in the opener, and then a 3-0 loss to Houston. So 1-1 there, with a few more matches this weekend and into this next week. And then cross country starts on Tuesday at home against, I want to say, NC A&T and NC Central. So fall sports officially, all of them are in full swing. So we'll come back next week and recap some more.
There you go. Well, thank you for that, and definitely check out all these Great slate of fall sports across the board. All right, now let's talk about some national discards. We are recording this on Sunday afternoon, so we're not going to have a chance to talk about the Virginia Tech, South Carolina, or Notre Dame, Miami game, or the TCU, North Carolina game tomorrow. But we'll talk about the Saturday slate, which in itself had some fantastic matchups: Texas, Ohio State, Clemson, LSU, Florida State, Alabama, etc.
Yeah.
I'll just start with some of your takeaways of the weekend and some teams that maybe impressed you or did not impress you.
Yeah, I'll go be the positive guy today. I'll go two teams that impressed me, both from the same state, and then one going back to Thursday. So I'll start Thursday, USF.
Okay.
I said last week that if I had to pick two Group of 5 teams to make it, it'd be Boise State and USF, and they had to play each other. USF dominated Boise State, which was really impressive. Byron Brown looked spectacular. Super physical runner in that game. So yeah, I mean, South Florida, they have a really tough schedule, which is why I was hesitant to pick them to make the playoff. They have Florida and Miami the next 2 weeks.
Wow.
But they look really good, and I think they're definitely a threat in the American, along with Tulane, who looked really, really good this week as well against Northwestern. And obviously it's Duke's opponent in week 3. The other team, going back to the ACC, is Florida State. I don't want to say that they're back, but they looked really, really good on Saturday. They weathered a torrential downpour during the middle of the game, and just handled Alabama from start to finish. Thomas Castellanos was spectacular. He looked like Thomas Castellanos. They're much more physical up front. I think they beat Alabama on both sides in the trenches. Squirrel White and Deuce Robinson looked good at receiver. So yeah, I mean, Florida State, I said they were my sleeper this coming into the year, and I feel pretty good about it right now. So yeah, I think the Noles are making some noise again.
Yeah, storming the field and everything. It was
Yeah.
fun, for sure. Okay, I'll talk about the games, the noon game and the nightcap there. The first one, Texas traveling to Ohio State. Ohio State winning 14-7 there, and kind of an ugly football game. For the majority of it, I felt like Julian Sain looked like the better quarterback. I thought he made good reads. His receivers dropped a few balls. Neither offense was particularly dominant, but I thought for the majority of it, he was solid, and I was impressed by him. And I think it took Arch Manning a long time to get settled in. He made some nice throws there at the end, but Texas really was never able to establish a ground game. I thought Ohio State's defensive game plan was really solid. Texas tried to make a little run there at the end, but I think Texas is going to be still a really, really good team. Arch Manning will be a great quarterback, but this is just one of those things where it's the first game of the season. Not everything is set in stone yet, and Ohio State, well-deserved and won the game, and I thought they were the better team for the majority of the game.
Yeah, I think, just adding to that, I think, obviously Texas is not pleased with the way that game went and the way they lost, but I thought they did a really good job guarding Jeremiah Smith. I thought, he wasn't much of a factor in that game, really, which is obviously the big thing when you play Ohio State. And then on the other end, I thought Matt Patricia, first game as DC Ohio State, he had Texas, he had Arch struggling. Obviously, Arch missed some throws, but I think Patricia's defense played a huge part in that. Some of those pressures just hit so fast that, any quarterback, especially one of their first start on the road at a packed house, would have a tough time picking up. So I think both those teams have, really strong defensive foundations to build on going forward.
Definitely. And similar in the nightcap, two teams that, played pretty well defensively, also kind of an uglier game. LSU defeating Clemson going into Memorial Stadium and winning 17-10. But LSU looks like the better team for the majority of the game. It was going to come down to who could protect their quarterback better. And for me, I thought coming in that LSU's change in offensive line would not hold up and Clemson's continuity would. But LSU blitzed hard, and Clemson struggled to keep up with that. And in the first half, they had a few nice drives. Looked like they were going to, wrestle away the lead. They had the ball to start the second half, but then Nussmeier showed why he's one of, or I think the best quarterback, the top prospect in the NFL draft this year. And their running game as well. Durham was fantastic on the ground. And, I mentioned last week on our first podcast, how I thought there might have been some recency bias with Cade's second half against Texas, because for the majority of the end of last season, he hadn't looked elite against great competition. And this is the same situation where, he made some good throws, but he was not very consistent, never really comfortable, back to the kind of the happy feet Cade of the sophomore and freshman years that we've seen. So I still think Clemson's going to be really, really good, but it's going to have to be different. The offensive line's going to have to be better, and they're going to have to develop some sort of running game.
Yeah, I agree there. I think the two biggest things for me was I thought Blake Baker, who's the LSU DC, did a really good job recognizing that Clemson has, one running back that starts, that's a receiver, used to be a receiver, and the rest of those guys have not really played. And then add in a backup right guard with Walker Parks out, and he just, came at him all night long. And I thought the running backs did a pretty poor job, honestly, in pass protection. They didn't do Klubnik a lot of favors there. So yeah, I think I'm interested to see if that becomes the blueprint for teams playing Clemson. Will teams just try to bring the house and see what happens? Obviously, you're not bringing it every single play, but I thought Baker picked his spots well. The secondary for LSU I thought held up really well behind those guys. Mansour Delane coming from Virginia Tech in particular, he was spectacular. So yeah, I'm interested to see if that kind of becomes a common theme. Obviously, Clemson has some things to work out, but plenty of talent on offensive defense. So I don't think too much of a cause for concern yet.
Right. Yeah, a long way to go, but still something that has kind of been a theme over the past few years for this Clemson team. I'm excited to see these games tonight, and obviously we'll talk about them next week. So they're kind of in process right now. But yeah, great landscape. Week 1, week 2's got some big matchups too.
Yeah.
Obviously Illinois Duke is the biggest one on the Duke's side of things, but a couple ranked matchups. Michigan Oklahoma is a big one there. But yeah, should be a fun week next week.
Yeah.
All right, well, thank you guys so much for listening to this episode. We will be back next week to recap the Illinois game and preview Tulane, which we will be going down to New Orleans for that game. Really appreciate you guys listening, and thank you guys for picking up our print edition, our football preview. That was awesome to meet a bunch of fans and see that you guys are interacting with our content, which is awesome. So continue to follow us on socials. See it all at DukeChronicle.com. We will be back next week. For Caleb Dudley, I'm Ranjan Jindal. This has been Blue Devil Beat.